Hello, hello, hello. Buenos dias. Good morning. I actually don't know any other way of saying good morning. I'm just thinking of it. Morning, Jamaican. Welcome. So today we're talking about the rapid response technique that public speakers use to sound smart every single time on panel discussions, in interviews, or Q&A. And the skill that you can build or you need to build if you want to be able to sound smart every time you have to give a response quickly. This is a part of the series that I'm doing this week. Sorry, I just blanked out a little bit. The Speak from the Soul series that I'm doing this week here on Soul Mirror Wellness, which is at Space to Reflect on Instagram. Soul Mirror Wellness is my company that works on supporting creators in wellness. For you specifically, if you are a community leader or a creator who has been invited to a conference or a gathering and you have to give a keynote speech or address, this series is going to be great for you. Yesterday we spoke about why you need to know your soul mission before you actually start writing your speech and how it's going to be helpful for you with writing speeches in general. So if you didn't see that video, go back and check it back for it here on Instagram at Space to Reflect or on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, La-Vonne. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. I want to talk about the time when I was in a pageant in Mandeville, Jamaica, and I choked on stage. So the first time I entered a pageant, I was 20 something. It was called the Miss Jamaica Festival Queen pageant. I entered it in Mandeville, Jamaica, which is my hometown. So you enter at the parish level and then the higher level, which is going to be the national level. And the first time I did this pageant, we practiced questions and answers and how to get it done. But the first time I did this pageant, because there was a second time, we came down to the final round. And I had been the last name that was called for the persons who were still in the running to be Miss Manchester Festival Queen. And I stood on that stage. I remember being asked a question, and I know eventually my answer was sort of okay, but it was just a lot of blabbering. There was a long pauses. It was very awkward. Needless to say, I did not win that pageant. I came third, but I decided to enter 2 years later, this time having perfected my quick response technique. And I can assure you that not only did I win the Miss Jamaica Festival Queen, the Miss Manchester Festival Queen at the parish level, but I also won the Miss Jamaica Festival Queen title at the national level. That's all of Jamaica being chosen out of, many hundreds of girls. And this is the technique that helped me to win. So one of the things that I did was, I'm a kind of person, when I decide to do something, I tend to do it in 2 phases. I found this with myself in life. I usually do best on the second try. And I think that's also because there's a part of me that doesn't like to stress myself out too much. So whenever I'm wanting to learn something or learn a new skill, I sort of ease into it. And so this is what happened with me at a pageant. It was the second time around that I was doing it. But this time I had the information of what was expected, what I needed to learn, how I needed to comport myself, how I needed to really put myself together in order to actually potentially win. And so what I would do was every night I would gather my family, thank them for really supporting me and all of my whimsical fancies, because I've always been the one who's a little bit more outgoing in the family. And I would sit them down in the afternoons, maybe 2 times a week, and I would get them to just ask me rapid fire questions about politics, about different things that were going on, and all of that sort of stuff. And basically, they were able to help me develop this rapid response technique, which allows me to sound smart, hopefully, every single time I speak, on pageants, on interviews, on panels, or in question and A. Now, if you are a creative person who has a speech coming up for a conference, this is going to be something that's going to be of value to you. Before I get into it, I'm going to talk about who I am just a little bit so you can get to know me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is La-Vonne. I am a creative individual who believes that our lives should reflect the expansiveness of our soul. I'm going to say that again. I believe with all of my being that your material life, your relationships, your job, your sense of self should reflect the expansiveness of your soul that is limitless, that is worldwide, that is cosmic level. How do I do that? Well, I organize retreats, I offer coaching, including public speaking coaching, because one of the things that people don't understand is when you're trying to express yourself in the world, one of the best ways you can really start is with words. And so this is one of the ways that I support. I'm taking you through this series this week. Hi, Chef Zito, nice to see you. Because we're talking about if you have to give a speech at a gathering or a conference, how can you do that? And if you didn't see my video yesterday, which was talking about how your soul mission helps you with writing a speech, a spellbinding speech that keeps your audience captivated, then you're going to want to go and check that video. But this video today, you can stay on now and find out more about the rapid response technique. And on Facebook, hi, nice to see you, thanks for joining. The rapid response technique that public speakers use to sound smart every time in interviews, on public panels, or in question and answer. How would I know this? Because I am an international public speaker who has been on television interviews, who has been on panel discussions, who has given countless keynote addresses. And these are part of the skills that I've learned, as well as the skills that I've used to help my students, my public speaking coaching students, who have given me a 5-star rating. So maybe I know what I'm talking about. The rapid response technique is this. It's rapid. Literally rapid. So I'm going to put the scenario forward to you. You are a professional in your field. Let's say you work in the field of tourism and you've been invited to speak about some particular challenges or issues regarding tourism at an international conference. They've put you on a panel. There are 5 other people. You don't really know what the questions are going to be. You know it's going to be a fluid discussion, and there's a host who's coming at you with questions. Not only are you going to perhaps be worried about impressing the other professionals that are beside you side by side, but you're also going to be worried about the audience who's in front of you, or concerned at least, not worried, because we don't need to worry. But you're going to be concerned that you're able to actually give them value with your responses. Well, this technique, the rapid response technique, and I'm using the word rapid because it's an acronym that will help you also. 5 steps to create a rapid response in any circumstance. This technique is going to be helpful. And we're going to go into it little by little. And we'll start with just going through what RAPID stands for overall. So RAPID stands for recognize, attention, position, I, there are 3 I's: identify, interpret, and illustrate, and then direction. And I'm going to go break those down in a little bit. But before I do, if you find the information on this live valuable and you are interested in working with me to have support with writing your next speech for that gathering that's coming up, please send me a DM with the word stage, and I'll send you information on my 21-day story to stage challenge. That is a speech writing challenge that is coming up in April. And that challenge is basically coming with really giving you that space. I mean, it's 21 days to get a keynote address out, a keynote address of 15 minutes or shorter. It's really 21 days to really focus on what is my core message that I want to give. How am I going to create the framework for that core message? Hi, Fee, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. And how am I actually going to create the speech and create it in a way that really binds the audience? So if you're interested in that, DM me the word stage and I'll tell you more about that. But let's get into the rest of the information. So basically, when you are on this circumstance where you've been chosen on a panel discussion, or you've been chosen to give an interview, or just in a question and answer situation, you want to know that you can talk about whether you're an artist, whether you're a musician, whether you're working in hospitality. You want to know that you can talk about anything from your field from a place of authority and clarity. We have 5 points because we're going rapid, R-A-P-I-D, okay? So they're gonna be 5 points, and I'm going straight into the technique now. 5 points of how to sound smart on your next panel, how to rapidly respond. We're starting with R, rapid, in the word rapid, and R stands for recognize. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is recognize where you are and who you're speaking to. So I'm gonna use myself as an example. Let's say I'm invited to speak on a design platform, because that's what I studied. I studied architectural design, and I have a master's degree in designed objects. So let's say I'm invited on a design platform to speak on a panel talking about how design can be used to support the growth of Caribbean industries. And someone asked me a question. Cherise, in your experience, how have you seen design useful to grow industry in Jamaica? The first thing I'm gonna do, R in the word rapid, R-A-P-I-D, so we're going through R-A-P-I-D today. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna recognize the person I'm talking to, and I'm gonna recognize where I am. So if the host's name is La-Vonne, let's say her name is La-Vonne because I can't think of another name, I'm going to say thank you so much, La-Vonne, for that question. And before I get into my response, I just want to acknowledge the amazing panel that we have here and the audience who's here with us. It's a true honor for me to be here. That's the first thing I'm going to do, recognize, okay? So that's the first technique point in the rapid response skill that you're going to want to know for your next panel. Recognize. The second thing I'm going to do is attention. So I'm going to bring attention to the issue that we're now talking about, to the subject that we're talking about. This has been talked about otherwise as hooking an audience. You know, you talk about when you start a speech, you want to hook an audience, right? So attention is what we're going to do right now. We're going to bring the audience to attention of what we're speaking about. So the next thing that I would say is something along the lines of a quote, a statistic, a fact, a question, or even a joke that grabs the audience's attention so that we can get into our response to the question. And of course, you're probably going to want to have that thing related to what you're speaking about, but it doesn't have to be. For example, in the case of a joke, you can make a joke about the weather, or about the specific town that you're in, or the specific area that you're in, or maybe the hotel, or maybe everybody knows that it's a joke that the food is delicious and you're going to be worried about being overweight. Whatever it is, you want to grab attention. So using that same example where I'm on a panel discussion talking about how design can support industry growth in the Caribbean, or specifically Jamaica, that question is positioned to me. The first thing I did was R, I recognize. The second one, I'm going to bring attention. So I'm going to bring attention to, perhaps, for me, I want to bring attention to the idea of design in general. And the fact that a lot of times people don't even know what design is, or that there is usually a thought pattern behind everything. So I'm going to bring an interesting perspective. And so this would be the second thing that I would say after I've recognized. I would say, have you ever considered where the phone that you're holding in your hand originated? Was it a country? Was it a factory? Was it a town? Or was it an idea? The answer to that question is all of the above. Everything that we use in a material world starts from an idea. And the process by which that idea gets translated into the physical object is design. Okay? So I've brought in an interesting fact, an interesting perspective to really get that audience in. Hi, Egypt. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. If you are ready to have some shifts about how to speak or how to give speaks, I want you to type shift in the comment, please. But that's the second thing I'm going to do. I'm going to bring attention. So we're talking about the rapid response technique you can use to sound smart on any panel. Welcome, Barbie. Thanks for being here, Essential Barbie. On any panel, question and answer, interview circumstance. And we're going through them one by one. R-A-P-I-D, rapid, for rapid response. The first one was recognize. This second one is bringing attention. And I just gave you an example of how I bring attention to the general topic of design by either giving a definition or a quote or a joke or something like that, okay? So what is the third point? So the third point, the rapid response technique, and the third point in the rapid response technique is going to be P, which is position. P is position. So you're going to tell us what your position is first and foremost, and you're going to basically start positioning your response. So what does this look like? This looks like giving, nice to see you. We're talking today about how to speak on panels. If you're ready, please type ready to hear what I have to share. And also, if you want to stay till the end, I'm going to share more information about the speech writing challenge that I have coming up to help with the preparation of your next speech. So we're at P, position. What happens in position? Great. Ready. Essential Barbie says ready. Amazing. IOFE says ready. Perfect. Let's keep going. Egypt says ready. Awesome. So what we're going to do when we position now is we're going to be talking about what's my general perspective on this thing, and we're going to start leading the audience towards our answer. Now, this is where it can get a little bit tricky, because what I try to ask all of my public speaking clients to do is come up with at least 2 or 3 main points about your general response to the answer. And actually they think, oh my gosh, but how can I come up with 2 or 3 main points that quickly? Well, first of all, first thing you do when a question is asked to you, you breathe deeply, you take a little pause, that gives you some thinking time. Then you're going into the recognition. The recognition is basically rote, it's just manners. Hi everybody, I'm here. That's also giving you some time to formulate. And then even when you go into attention, now attention starts to even lead you into your answer. So I'm going to have my attention point specifically was around, let's say, design in general is this process. So my 3 points are going to be talking about why it's important to have a process, the beneficial points of having good design, and some of the steps that we can take to have good design. And that's just kind of coming off of the top of my head. I really am doing this on the spot right now, using this technique. So positioning is basically giving an overview of what your response is going to be. No details yet, but an overview of what your response is going to be so that the audience knows what your position is. Okay, so let's keep using the same example and we're going to continue. So I'm going to start with recognize. Hi everyone, it's so great to be here. It's so amazing to be on this amazing panel. This is really a topic that I'm very, very passionate about, and I'm happy to continue. And we're going to go into attention. So as we know, everything that we have and hold in our hands came from an idea. The process of materializing from idea to material object, that is design. And now I'm going to go into my position. A lot of times we overlook the fact that design is absolutely necessary to have the beneficial effects that we want in our lives. So my response to this question is going to be based on the fact that design is a process that is absolutely necessary to create intentionally, that good design creates more ease in general, and that when people are more easeful, they can be more productive and therefore work better in industry. Okay, so those are 3 points that I've had, and I'm coming into positioning. So the 3 points, because I'm talking to you, I need to make a note just so I don't forget. So design is essential was the first one. The second one was that good design causes ease. And then the third one was that ease creates more productivity, right? Ultimately. So those are my 3 points. I hope you all are taking notes because this is really going to be helpful. I know some of you here are musicians. This can be helpful for you even if you're in an interview talking about your music and your work. Like it's really the thing that I use to answer any question on my feed, just like that, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't get arms and butts and nervousness. That's okay. That's all right in public speaking. That's what we call authenticity. Wherever you are in your public speaking process or during your strength, you can be okay with that. As you go with time, it's going to become more smoother, but at least you have this rapid response technique, okay? So we've gone over the first 3 points. And before I go on to the next 2 of this rapid response technique that's going to be helpful on your next panel discussion or in your next interview, I want to just let you know again, who I am, what I do, and how you can work with me more if you're interested. If not, that's totally fine. But please stick around for the last 2 points. So I'm Cherise La-Vonne. I'm a creative individual, which is very multifaceted and multidimensional. But the one thing that I want you to know about me is that I believe that our lives should reflect the expansiveness of our souls. That's why my business is called Soul Mirror. It's space to reflect on just who you are, the amazing God power that you are, creative engine that you are, space to reflect on that, and in space to reflect that identity out into the world. That is exactly what I believe. And how do I do that? I organize retreats. I offer intuitive and public speaking coaching. And I also offer resources. And I have a podcast called the Space to Reflect podcast that I want you to go look up on Spotify as well. That we're just starting, but it has a meditation series and that kind of stuff. Thanks, Fee. Thanks for the support. All right, so we're going on to the next 2 points. Before that, if these 2 points are helpful for you, I want to tell you more about the 21-day speech writing challenge that I have that's coming up for you creative persons who have a conference coming up or maybe a big interview and you want to be able to just have that speech that keeps you secure and you know you can present very well and spellbind the audience. We have a challenge coming up, which is called the Story to Stage Challenge. If you're interested in knowing more about that, send me a DM with the word stage and I'll tell you all about it, okay? And that challenge includes a couple of masterclasses, one-on-one coaching, so it actually has like direct coaching with me, which is like a whole $600 value just in and of itself. And then there's also the one of the distinguishing factors is we're gonna have daily writing sessions, so a 1 hour power hour where you just come on Zoom for an hour, we'll write together. And you'll have that kind of community, because I know sometimes that's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to getting work done, just feeling like you're doing it so alone and you don't know where to start. So I'll tell you much more about that challenge if you want to. DM me the word stage. But now let's get back to the information, this rapid response technique that you need to know if you want to sound smart every time on your next panel, interview, or Q&A. Let me just get a sip of water before I continue. Oh, water's so good. I love it. Thank you, water. Okay, so we've been going through the word rapid, R-A-P-I-D. We went through recognize, attention, and position. And now we're going to I. Now, I gets a little bit complicated. And if I'm going to give you one word for I, the word is going to be interpret. But really, I is a 3-step I. So it should be rapid, R-A-P-I-I-I-D. But we're going to stick with interpret. And there are 2 other important I's that I will talk to you a little bit more about if you want to work with me one-on-one. But for today, the only I you need to remember in rapid is interpret. The position that you gave, now you're going to interpret it, which means you're going to break it down. So in my case, I'm talking about how design is helpful for Caribbean industries, and I positioned that design is something that makes life easier, that good design makes easier, that design is actually a process that is necessary for creation, and that once people are living in more ease, they're able to be more productive, right? Which gets to the point of industry. So those are my 3 points. When I am coming down to interpreting it, all I'm going to do is take those points one by one and break them down. So I'm going to go with my first point and I'm going to say, okay, so let's start with just talking about the fact that design is necessary for creation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give some examples. I'm going to explain that in detail. Then I'm going to go to the next point. And I'm going to say, secondly, once design has happened, it creates a more easeful situation for people. For example, have you ever thought about how challenging it would be to eat cereal without a bowl? You know, and then I'll go in more into that. And I might give some more secure examples. And I know this is a rapid response technique, but this is also a technique that can be very helpful with how you structure speeches that you prepare ahead of time, right? And then I'm going to go through my third point and I'm going to interpret that third point. And that point was that when there's more ease, there's more productivity. So I'm going to talk about the fact that human beings need to work from regulated nervous systems in order to actually be able to be creative. And then we're going to go into that, and then how creative adds to productivity, and productivity ultimately is what creates better industries, right? So basically, I'm going to interpret each of the position points that I have given. Each of the position points that I've given. And that is going to be the fourth step in the rapid technique. So the rapid response technique starts with 1, recognizing where you are, who you're talking to. 2, grabbing attention, A. P, positioning and giving your main points. And then 4th is interpreting those points. Now, interpreting the points actually can get a little bit more detailed than this. And that's something that if you want to be a part of the speech writing challenges I have coming up, that will be helpful for you, because I'll be able to go into more detail about that, because this I can also be identify and illustrate. And that's really just how you can really start getting into more and more detail. Because what's happening is, by the time you move from the position point, now you actually really have to get into the meat of what you're talking about, right? And we're assuming you know what you're talking about. And so when you know what you're talking about, like if you're a musician or if you're an artist or if you're a designer like me, you live this. So if someone asks you to speak about it, of course you can. You have the knowledge. But the question is, how can you organize the knowledge in such a way that it actually means something to the people that you're talking to? And this rapid response techniques helps you to organize. So once we get to I, which is interpret in a rapid response technique, once we get to I, you're now gonna really have to get into the depth of knowledge that you have. But how will you organize that? Because sometimes someone asks you a question and you just kind of start blabbering and not really getting to the point, and it's like, oh my gosh, where am I? I'm lost in the conversation, right? Like that happens as well. So how do you organize the information so that you just don't go out into outer space? Identify and illustrate are 2 other I's. And that's something else that maybe I will do some an extra video on this, we'll see. But that's something else that you want to have in mind. Okay, so we've gone through R, recognize, A, attention, P, position, I, interpret. And now we're going to the last letter, D. And D is direction. D is direction. So D is where you're going to actually direct the attention of your audience to exactly where you need it to go. Basically, after you've given them all this information, hi, Jamsget, nice to see you. Thanks for connecting. Talking today about how to answer quickly on panel discussions and creating speeches and that sort of thing. And at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit more about a speech writing offer that I have coming up. So if you're interested, you can stick around for that. We're almost at the end. The last letter in the rapid is D, and it's direction, right? So you want to be able to, once you've recognized where you are, once you've grabbed their attention, once you've positioned, and once you've interpreted, you want to direct the audience and whoever you're speaking to where you want them to go. What should they do with all this information? What is the main point of all your information, and what should they do with it? Do you want them to sit and consider it? Do you want them to appeal to their industry boards that they have more qualified designers and systems designers in their space, in the example of that I was giving? Do you want them to go and write an article? Do you want them to go and learn about design? What do you want them to do? And that is the example, that is using the example that I was giving of a panel discussion about talking about how design can support Caribbean industry. So basically the end of this, and after I've done through everything, is going to sound something like, so what I would like to appeal to our authorities to do, and those of you who are here can also appeal to them, to really consider having qualified systems designers in positions of decision making in corporations that have big industrial implications. right? And that's really how you can end it. So I'm going to go through now and I'm going to give this entire response, this rapid response using the example that I have, right? So we're talking about the rapid response for sounding smart every time on panel discussions. And this is just a sneak peek of some of what we will be learning in my story to stage speech writing challenge that's coming up in April. But we're gonna be opening up applications soon. If you want information about that, please DM me the word stage. It's a 21-day challenge. We're gonna be going through all the basics of how to write your speech for your next keynote address at a conference, or how to prepare for interviews and that kind of thing. So anyone here who needs some support with that, please DM me the word stage, or you can write a comment. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching it after, let me know if you want more information. DM me the word stage. So I'm gonna go through the rapid response and I wanna see if you can actually identify when I'm at each part. R.A.P.I.D. Let's see if I remember the position of my hands, and I can just move my hands as I'm speaking, right? So I'm going to recognize, I'm going to get attention, A, I'm going to position, P, I'm going to interpret, I, and then I'm going to give direction, okay? So I'm going to be two people right now. Let's start. Okay, Charisse, it's so amazing to have you here on this panel. I want to direct a question to you. How do you think that design can support in the growth of industry in the Caribbean? Don't laugh. Hi, La-Vonne. You know, first of all, I just want to say how it's an amazing honor to be here right now with you talking about this, because this is something I'm very passionate about. One of the things that I want everyone in the audience to think about is, I want to just close your eyes for a minute and think about your most prized possession. So let's think about it. I don't know if it's your cell phone, or if it's a piece of jewelry, like an inanimate object. I'm not talking about pets or animals here, but your most prized possession. Just get that clear in your mind. And I want you to imagine what was in the mind of the designer of that possession. Can you imagine it? Now let's open our eyes. You see, the thing is, so I'm moving into position now. The thing is that everything that we have here is actually created from an idea, a vision, just like the vision you just had. That vision was in someone's mind before it became a physical thing. But it actually doesn't start out just exactly like that. The process of bringing the idea to a material thing is a process of design. And in responding to this question, what I'm going to position is that, first of all, design is essential to create effective systems, that effective systems create ease, and that ease creates more productivity and therefore more economic growth. So now I'm moving into I, okay? Interpreting the position. So let's talk about the fact that design actually is essential for creating good systems. I don't know how many of you have had this experience. Have you had to wake up in the morning, get ready for a very important event, and let's say you had no furniture. The word slipped me. So let's say you had no furniture. You just moved into this new apartment because you're starting a new job and you had to get ready for this job, and you wake up in the morning and it's a little bit of a frantic search. You're like rummaging through your suitcase and you don't know where your lotion is, and you get out of the house but you're feeling all hustled and bustled. Now I want you to imagine that same scenario where you have to get out of the house for an important meeting, but you've had time to settle into your house. You have a dresser right here that has your phone, you know where to set off the alarm. Your underwear is in the drawer right below. You walk into the bathroom and you know where your lotion is going to be. And you're able to, within 10-15 minutes, do the same thing that probably took you 30 minutes before when you were disorganized. What just happened there was that you designed a system in your house. You designed a system of how to get ready that actually made it easier for you to get ready. Now, a lot of us create those designs intuitively, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. But that is one example of how things become more easy and can be more systemized by actually intentionally designing. So now we're moving into thinking about, okay, now that we have systems, but how does that apply to industry? Well, let's say, for example, that we're talking about the industry of manufacturing, and the system for managing applications for manufacturing license is a little old school. It's sort of like a messy suitcase. And when we need to find one specific application, we can't because, well, it was filed under P instead of R because his name was Peter Road, but we didn't know if it should have been Road or Peter. Then you have an unsystemized system, something that is not working. And you're going to want to be able to use a designer who can look at all the complexity of applications and what needs to be done and who needs to be paid and all of that stuff, and find a way to organize it that results in the most efficient use. Okay? So we're talking about that. Now, third point was that the fact that once you're having that ease of use, thank you, Fee. I'm happy that I'm helping you with that breakthrough. Once you have that ease of use, can you imagine just how much peaceful everyone in that situation is going to be? What happens with peaceful people? Peaceful people don't have time to be contentious. Peaceful people don't have time to use a lot of energy arguing instead of actually putting it into creative work. And more than anything else, peaceful people have the opportunity to have space in their minds to actually create and be more creative and help the continuous evolution of the system. Because designs are never one and done. Look at your very iPhone. Every year there's a new version. Designs are continuously evolving, but people have to be conscious of what evolution needs to happen in order to allow for the most productivity and creativity. Now I'm going to move to direction, right? So I've interpreted all of what I had to share. I'm going to move to direction. So this is what I want you to really consider. In your own house. Hi, Italy. Thanks for joining. If you're ready to hear what I have to share, we're almost at the end, but please type ready so I can know that you're interested. So this final point is I'm going to direct them, okay? So whatever industry you're in, I want you to take a moment and look around and see if it's operating more like a messy suitcase or if it's operating more like an organized room with dressers and drawers. Okay? And so now, and end, cut, final, right? So now you see how I use the rapid response technique for my interview, for my panel discussion, for whatever Italy says ready, amazing, thank you. This rapid response technique that we're talking about, you can apply whenever you have to speak publicly and you're talking about something that you know in your core, but you just want to be sure how you can organize the information, okay? So we went through all of that technique. We went through recognize where you are. We went through attention, grab the attention of the audience with a fact or a statistic or a joke or a story. Went through position what you're going to share with them, position the points that you're going to share. We went to interpret the points one by one, and then we went to direction, which is direct them to what you want them to do. Okay, so this rapid response technique I hope has been very helpful for you. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you want to ask any questions or have any comments, you can do so. Even if you're not watching live, if you're watching later on, please leave all your comments, including on Facebook. I know you just see my forehead, sorry. But let me know. I wanted you again to remember, or I wanted to remind you once again about the Story to Stage speech writing challenge that I have coming up in April. It's a 21-day challenge, so it's a sprint to write your next keynote address for the next conference that you're going to. And we're going to be preparing you not just for the speech, but also for the panel discussions that might be at the conference, or for the networking conversations that you might have with people. So no matter your industry, I know especially those of us who are creative can sometimes have a challenging time talking about what we're doing, because a lot of times what we're doing is still being created. We're creating something out of nothing, right? So how do you talk about the thing that you're creating that is out of nothing? And that's why I wanted to create this challenge, a story to stage challenge, and why I wanted to create this series that we're in today, the Speak from the Soul series. And I'll be back on tomorrow, Saturday, 18th of March at 12 p.m. Central Time. That's 11:30 a.m. Mexico City, which is where I'm based. And we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to talk about how to use your life story to write a captivating keynote that spellbinds the audience. Okay, so how to use your life story, your specific life story, to create that. Italy says, send you info. Okay, yeah, sure, Italy. So Italy, I will send you that info for sure. Thank you for being here. So yes, so how to do that. The challenge is going to be 21 days. It's going to include some master classes in a group setting that will also give you the opportunity to present. Small group. It's going to be online. But there will also be one-on-one coaching opportunities with me, where I will be able to go through your own speech and your own story with you. And then the third thing that's going to be amazing about it is for the 21 days, we will have a 1 hour writing power hour in the mornings where you can come on Zoom and we're all going to commit to come on at that time, hell or high water. And I mean, if it really is hell or high water, you could probably miss one day, but that's okay. But we're going to have that so that you can have that time in the morning to really get your speech out and get it going. In less than 21 days, you're going to have a spellbinding speech, okay? So DM me the word stage if you want information. Italy, you passed me your address. Let me just write it down. Yep, I have it written down. So I'll send you an email about that right away. So yeah, just to go over, my name is La-Vonne. I am a creative individual, specifically architectural designer, dancer, vocalist, poet, writer, creative individual. But most importantly, I really believe that our lives need to reflect the expansiveness of our souls. And so that's what I'm called to do, to support other creators, other creatives in creating a life that supports their soul. Thank you so much, Italy. I love them too. It's a monstera leaf. I'm in love with this leaf, and it always reminds me of home Mandeville, because Mandeville have no footies. So I do that I support creative individuals through retreats, through coaching, which goes from intuitive coaching to public speaking coaching to conscious creation coaching, and also through resources and my podcast, Space to Reflect. So if you want to connect more, DM me the word stage and I will let you know. Thank you so much for being here, Fee. If you are here and you appreciated the information, just send me a smiley face or something just so I can know, and letting you know that I will be here again tomorrow. I also have a video that I posted yesterday, so if you want to go look back at that, you can. It's how knowing your core mission is going to help you with writing your next speech or formulating a response to an interview question as well. I am going to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow when we're talking about translating your life story into a spellbinding speech. It will be 12 p.m. Central Time, 12:30 p.m. Central Time. 12:30 p.m. Central Time, 11:30 a.m. Mexico City, where I'm based. I will see you. I was happy to share the space with you. Thank you for being here with me. Italy, Fee. Thank you, Egypt, as well for here. Thanks, Jam's Good. Thank you, Essential Barbie. Thank you, Chef Zito. Thank you, Kevin Iori. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, bye. Bye-bye.